So something very exciting happened to me this morning that was so timely for today's podcast, all about sauna and infrared sauna, being very specific. So I beaded and dripped sweat. Now you think, what's the big deal? Everybody sweats when they go into a sauna, Karen. But ladies, I don't sweat. And I never have. And I know that that sounds very strange, but I'm not the only person out there. We're going to talk about this today with my guest. But my whole life, I have never been a person to bead sweat. I could be doing a rigorous workout. I could be in my sauna. I could be, out on the beach in really, really hot weather. And I will maybe get a little bit damp or dewy, but you will never see something roll off my face when I'm hot. It just does not happen. So one of the reasons, one of them, that I was determined to get an infrared sauna was I wanted to teach my body how to sweat. And I have been using the sauna that I have, my Sunlighten sauna that we're going to talk about today, for about 6 weeks now, and religiously using it several times a week for really, like, I get it up to about 130, sometimes even 140, which is like max heat for 40 minutes. And I was still not sweating until this morning, where I actually had it. Like, I had a little pool. I was so happy. It was only about the size of, like, I don't know, like a quarter or so of sweat on the floor. But I was like, oh my gosh, it's actually dripping off of me. And I'll tell you, I'll explain a little bit about what I think actually finally got my body to do this. But I'm very excited because this was something I needed to learn how to do, or teach my body how to do, in order to get rid of heavy metals and other toxins from my body. Now, if you've been listening to me for a while, I discovered about 5 years ago that I was riddled with heavy metals. I mean, as far as high as the chart went, I went on mercury and lead levels in the body. And I've tested it twice and the same thing both times. So I have spent years going down every rabbit hole possible on detoxification of heavy metals and how to get rid of them out of your body. And I will tell you what, it is a world that I don't want to put on anybody because it's so confusing. There's so much conflicting advice. And I have tried several different protocols out there, and they always made me feel really sick because I don't detox very well. So I would take these chelators that would try and, that would start to excrete these heavy metals, pull them out of my body, my organs, my bones, my brain. And then you're supposed to get rid of them after that. And I was getting a lot of reabsorption of metals, and then I was getting more sick. I was starting to lose my eyesight every time I was chelate, do a protocol, where I couldn't see far away anymore. I used to have perfect vision, so it was wrecking my eyesight. I was gaining weight rapidly every time I would do, a set of, a couple weeks of chelation. I would just gain a bunch of weight during it and have inflammation and feel sick. And so I had to figure out ways in the last year or so, how could I detox my body from these heavy metals in a really safe, gentle form of detoxification? And what comes up every single time when you do that research is sweating, is infrared sauna, is exercise sweating. Those are the top two ways that they say to sweat out toxins, is an infrared sauna and exercise. Well, exercise doesn't do it for me. So I got myself a sauna, and I got myself a Sunlighten sauna after I met today's guest, Vic Riffel.
Yep, Riffle.
Yep, great. Vic Riffel, at a conference last year, and he had his sauna there set up, and I got to, go in it and really experience what it's like. And they're beautiful, beautiful saunas. I asked him a million different questions, like, okay, how is this, when you set it up? And, is this going to be hard to move if I move houses? And what kind of electricity does it take? And I got all the information. And we ended up getting one. And so I have I'm super excited that I have one. And I now want to share all this information with you guys, my listeners, because the benefits of infrared sauna go way beyond just detoxification. And we're going to really get into those things today. Now, Vic is a central figure on the partner team at Sunlighten. He's a leading producer of infrared saunas, deeply connected to health and wellness. Vic leads initiatives that widen access to infrared therapy and facilitate collaborations with top wellness experts. These partnerships highlight the significant health benefits of infrared therapy and foster a holistic approach to wellness, delivering expert insights directly to consumers. Beyond work, Vic is dedicated to supporting generational health changes, actively championing projects as a board member of Small Changes, Big Shifts to promote whole person health. So welcome, Vic, to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Karen. It's great to be here.
Yes, I'm really excited about this because I have not talked about infrared sauna on my podcast in the 5 years that this podcast has been going. And I really feel like it's a very important piece to detoxification and to many different things that are geared towards health and wellness. I mean, it's just such a, I don't know, you hear from everybody, at least I did. Like I've heard for the last like 10 years from people that have saunas how much they love their sauna and how much it benefits their health. So I'm excited for us to kind of get into all things infrared sauna because I really don't know much about the science behind it all. I just know that they're great. So let's get started. Now, I just want to start with the basics. Um, let's compare. So there's many different types of sauna. We got the steam sauna, dry sauna, infrared sauna. Can you explain kind of what the difference is between those?
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said, infrared, you've been hearing about it a lot. And the
Yes.
bad part, it's you still don't know much about it. And that's the same for everybody, pretty much. Not many people really know or understand what infrared is. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where we'll start is what is infrared? It's part of the spectrum of light. We think about the rainbow, and that's because we can see it. So we think about visible light. Infrared is basically a spectrum within the spectrum because it's just next to red light on the visible spectrum, but it's invisible. So infrared is heat and light, and there's three different wavelengths within it, which is near infrared, mid infrared, and far infrared. So we can break those down a little bit as we go on through the conversation, but
Yeah.
just understanding that there's three different ones and they affect your body differently. So if you think about our bodies as solar panels, I love that analogy because we were truly designed to absorb this light. Our eyes can see visible light, but our bodies have these receptors that take in this light energy, and then all sorts of magic happens from there, depending on which wavelength we're receiving, how long we're in there, and even the quality of that wavelength. But it's just with infrared, the nice thing is it feels good. So
Yeah.
we may not understand what infrared is, but we've felt it. So on a spring day when it's kind of chilly, it's cloudy out. As soon as that cloud cover moves and the sun comes out, you feel it. You feel
Yeah.
that sun, and that's infrared, that warm, pleasant feeling. And it's just something that we all have in common. We've all known our whole lives, but we just don't associate it with infrared. And so what we've done at Sunlighten is bring that into a cabin or our portable saunas, and now are delivering that to people all across the world. So what could be better than that? I mean, when we're thinking about,
Sunlight in a box.
yeah, exactly. Um, so comparing that to other saunas out there, when you think steam saunas, traditional saunas, you think hot, like high heat. The humidity in a steam sauna has a lot to do with the effects and the heat that you're getting there. But I'm always kind of scared of those steam saunas because when I think about steam and moisture in an enclosed room, I can't help but think about mold and
Mold.
other things that might accumulate in the surfaces. And then usually that's kind of a shared space, which saunas, I mean, it's a community deal for the most part. People are interacting and together, but with infrared saunas, you can typically have them at your home and be by yourself, but who knows what else, what other people are sweating, you know?
Right.
So there's that
I've
part too.
I've also heard too, like this, that because the water that's being used to create the steam is typically like city water. And so if you
Yeah.
don't have a great system in your city, that
No.
you could be inhaling the toxins like birth control pills. That's what I
Mm.
actually read, like chemicals that are in the water that you're then breathing in. Now I don't know if there's any science behind that, but that really was like, oh, I didn't even think about that, or the chlorine or the fluoride or whatever's in that city water, you're breathing it in.
Yeah, no, that's true. And it's just scary because you're trying to detox, not retox. So that's definitely something to consider as you're thinking about these other modalities. And yeah, I'd admit I've gone in a steam sauna even somewhat recently. It's like if you're at the gym and you want to sweat it out. I mean, that's a term that we use often. But moving on then to traditional saunas and that hot heat, it's static air. Like your body is just feeling the heat from the outside. You're not really heating up on the inside like you do with infrared saunas. So when
Okay.
we're talking about the light energy and how our body is absorbing this light, with infrared, you're heating yourself from the inside out. So far infrared specifically is absorbed by water molecules within your body. And there's chains of water molecules that then transfer this energy to the next molecule and to the next. And so all this excitement, this energy is happening. And that's what the magic of infrared. It's the movement, it's the circulation, it's your body getting energized through this energy. So again, from the inside out versus just that hot static air that's heating you, yes, really well, but doing it in such a way that your body's telling you too, like, I need to get out. This is way too hot. Higher cortisol levels with that in mind.
Um,
And then you do get a shorter session with infrared. You can withstand longer time in there. But those are kind of the main differences is that with infrared, it's a little more energizing. It's enjoyable versus having to endure it like with traditional saunas.
okay, that's a great explanation. So just bringing it back to the sun, I'm just sitting here thinking about that. So it's comparable to what we get from when we're in direct sunlight. Is we
Yes.
get these three rays, these sorry, go through them again.
Yeah.
Medium,
So mid, near, and
mid, sorry.
far.
Okay,
Yep.
mid, near, and far. Okay, I
Yeah.
should be
And
able to
so
remember that.
55% of the sun's rays are actually infrared. So most of the sun is infrared, but with our saunas, you're not getting the UV and some of those bad parts of the sun that have gotten a bad name. And rightfully so, there's times where you can have too much sun exposure, but with infrared, you're not really getting that. It's safe, it's natural. And in fact, in many hospitals, like they'll even have little incubation stations basically for these premature babies with infrared because it's warming them
Oh.
up gently. Um, yeah,
And then, so
pretty.
what about the mid and the near? Do we not, because it has to be closer to we would get it if we were closer to the sun? Or no,
There's
that,
there's small bits of it. I don't have the
okay.
breakdown of exactly
Yeah.
which wavelength you get,
Okay.
but in that pure form, like full spectrum, the sun has it all, and we are able
Yeah.
to absorb it. So that's where, like, the big thing that I've been doing this year is just really working on getting that natural sunlight. I mean, as
Yeah,
much as I
me too.
sauna and get light, just going outside in the mornings, getting the sun then, and then too during the peak time of the day just that quick exposure to as much of your skin as possible. Because again, our bodies are soaking it all up, producing vitamin D. I wish infrared saunas could help us produce vitamin D, but that is not something that does happen. So if your audience is thinking, "Oh gosh, it's done," there is a differentiator there,
Yeah.
but plenty of other health benefits that I'm excited to talk about.
I actually this winter was shown by my sleep expert friend Molly. Do you know Molly Eastman? Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Molly was showing me this light box that is new that actually
Mm,
you can use in the winter time, and I don't know if it creates you like, or if it mimics the sun enough that yes, it does make your body produce vitamin D.
really?
Yes, it was
That's amazing.
ridiculously expensive. So I was like, oh, I wish, but no. Um, but that could be something, that down the road you could add to a sauna maybe so that people would actually get them. Because imagine that, where you could in the winter time, where places like I live, where there's, it's super dark and cold and I never go outside in the winter, to be able to
Hmm.
have that kind of vitamin D in my sauna would be like super exciting. But
No
yeah, so
doubt.
check it out. Check it out. I'll have to get the name for you because it's only one company that I've seen that's done it. So
Oh, cool.
I'll get you the name. It's a funny looking box too.
Hmm.
And now your saunas, the one that I got, and I specifically got this one, was the Impulse, and that is because you added red light therapy to it. So how does
Correct.
that mimic, like how does that combine with infrared? Are we now mimicking the sun even more by having that?
Yeah, you might say
I
that
thought so.
because it's just more of the spectrum. So
Yeah.
you're getting four wavelengths there. As I said before, near infrared is right next to red on the spectrum. So they actually pretty much are brother and sister. They really mimic each other as far as the effects go. They are short wavelengths, which means higher energy. And for us, we have found that the best way to deliver them is through LEDs. And so that is what is in your Impulse sauna is a couple LED panels that have both this near and red light LED strip combination. And when they're used together, they really do a great job of activating mitochondria. That's one of the first things that people talk about with red light therapy is mitochondria. So that is one of those photoreceptors that absorbs and receives this energy. So it's almost feeding the fuel or feeding the mitochondria some of that fuel that it needs to produce energy. We do a lot of
Wow.
that through other supplements and just our diet alone, but infrared can help support that process. Um,
Wow.
Near infrared, we call here the vanity wavelength because it's very topical. It's more skin related besides the mitochondria piece. It's helping produce more elastin, collagen. It's going to help with fine lines and wrinkles and that kind of thing. And it's funny because the first time about 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, before I started my job here, I was like, I need to go check what this company is all about. And the day spa here, we have our Impulse sauna, and I went in, got a great session. And as I was leaving, I happened to reach up and touch my face, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I was not expecting it to feel so smooth and so good.
Yep.
And that was after a single session. Um, so for someone like myself who wasn't necessarily as concerned about skin and what I'm putting on my body at the time, it was a great leap to have a better path moving forward and understand the the ways that we can support our skin with something that's just like light, because with all these topical creams you do have to be careful of what's actually in them, because back to our toxins conversation, we have to be sure that we're not putting bad stuff into our body, because we do a really great job of absorbing everything that's on our skin.
Right. And my audience is mainly perimenopausal and menopausal women where we're rapidly losing collagen in our face at this age. And mitochondria health function goes
Mm,
down with menopause because as we lose estrogen, estrogen is really important for mitochondrial health. So we can get, mitochondrial issues as well as facial stuff. So this kind of combines both of those things and I found some research to show that too when I was doing the research for today's interview was the benefits on how it helps with elastin and collagen, and then of course is going to clear your pores out as well, which every
mhm.
woman wants that. And I have noticed a difference in my skin as well, for sure.
Yeah, and the thing
Yeah,
is, like with saunas, I mean, the health benefits are so varied. They help support women and just everyone at no matter the stage in life. Like even as you're preparing for perimenopause, you want your body to be in fighting shape. You want to support yourself in all those ways. So if you are producing more elastin and collagen as you head into that stage of your life,
right.
you're just setting yourself up for success better. And that's what makes this sauna, like if you have it at home and it's a tool that you can use, if you know all these benefits and it feels that good, it's really important to have habits that you can keep. And for them to be such a healthy habit, Like it's easier to keep. And it's sometimes you buy these devices and tools where they're just hot for a while, but I have a feeling that infrared saunas specifically and just light in general, it's going to be around for a while. I mean, tons of
Yeah.
products out there, and when you have it in your home and you can use it and think about the skin, but then the heart, the brain effects. I mean, we'll talk about them, I'm sure, here
Yeah.
in a bit,
Yeah.
but it's just so fun to think about, and it just makes my job that much more rewarding because for myself, but then as you spoke earlier, like I'm helping spread this word about infrared. And it's just amazing that it's a natural device that's becoming more and more accessible.
Well, hasn't Sunlighten, aren't you guys like one of the first companies too? Like it's been around forever, hasn't it?
Yeah, this is our 25th anniversary.
25th. Oh, wow.
Yeah. And the
Yeah.
story of Sunlighten itself too, it's came from a place of healing and from metal detox as well. So
Oh,
Connie and
wow.
Aaron Zach, they were the founders. At the
Yeah.
time, they were at Procter and Gamble, and in the pharmaceuticals. And Connie was on like a cardiology or heart related medicines, and um, she loved what she was doing. She knew she was helping people, but it still just wasn't in the way that she thought she could. And her brother at the time was not doing well. So he was having health issues, chronic fatigue, and all sorts of other problems where life was draining from him. But it was with the help of his dentist that he discovered he had mercury toxicity, mercury just overload, where his body was at a point of just, I can't handle this. So the dentist actually suggested try this infrared therapy. And mind you,
No
this is
way.
25 plus years ago, and a dentist telling you this,
Yeah.
they must have really been in the, I don't even know where you access that info,
Yeah, I
like
don't.
the right
That's
library
crazy.
section, I
Yeah.
guess. Um, and it was working. So he started sessions, started to feel better, improved. And Connie at the time, she was like, Jason, this is incredible. Like we should harness this energy, this device and make it better, make it more accessible because it took a long time to get better. And as she was diving in and researching, again, she was thinking about the heart benefits of the medicines that she was giving, but they always had a side effect. Like
Hmm.
all the heart drugs out there, a lot of people in our industry, the holistic health, they don't believe that you should be taking pills to help your heart because the side effects are just not worth the small benefits. And she
Hmm.
was like, my gosh, it was out in Japan, actually. They had some of the leading studies showing the reduced blood pressure, increased circulation, reduced cholesterol, all these great things without the side effects for it to be natural again. Like who wouldn't want to take that, harness it, and then give it to the world? And that's what they did. They quit their jobs at Procter and Gamble,
Wow.
started this out of their basement, and then proceeded to do different studies, making sure that they were giving and delivering the best infrared possible, and then making a device that just looks good. It's something that you want to have in your house
Yep.
because they're not small and you can get big units, but they look good and
They
they
sure
feel good
do.
to sit in.
I was like, oh my gosh, look at how beautiful this is. And it's in my like unfinished basement. So it's just this, it's in the corner and, cement on flooring. And it's like, it's this, it stands out. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Really spruces up the environment. So on that note, when I was doing the research, I found, there was a JAMA study that was done on 2,300 middle-aged men for an average of 20 years. They found
Mhm.
that the more sessions per week that men spent in the sauna, the lower their risk of sudden cardiac death and fatal coronary heart disease. The sauna also extended the life of participants with other illnesses, including cancer. According to the study, participants who had 2 or 3 sauna sessions a week had a 22% reduced chance of suffering sudden cardiac death. Men who had 4 to 7 sauna sessions of at least 20 minutes each had the greatest benefits compared with those who had just 1 sauna session a week. They had a 63% lower risk of sudden cardiac death, 50% lower risk of cardiovascular disease death, 48% lower risk of coronary heart disease death, and were 40% less likely to die from all causes. Oh,
Right.
Right? Like that actually gives me shivers when I talk about it because I was like, that's like considering that heart disease is the number one killer in North
Mhm.
America. This is amazing. And it's doing something that is really enjoyable, right? So I'm not a
Yeah.
person that really likes to exercise super hard. So for, which they always say you got to do your cardio for your cardiovascular health. So for me, I really do like that it does that. It also showed that it increased red blood cell count, blood flow to the heart, better oxygen delivery to the muscles, less cardiovascular strain. Um, Increased heart rate, blood flow circulation, endothelial production, improved blood pressure, reduced oxidative stress and inflammation. I mean, the list just goes on and on.
Yeah, and it does. And as you were talking about those stats too, it was like if you do a little bit, it's really good for you. If you do more, it's even
Yes.
better. So that goes back to the habits of like, if you're going to get a sauna, do it and make it part of your routine, because you're just going to reap the benefits more and more. And then you have a chance to kind of vary your sessions so that maybe one day you are doing it a little bit hotter than you normally would, and then the next day maybe you don't have as much time. So that's what's cool about infrared as well, is you're getting the heat and the light, so it's just more benefits and ways to harness this energy and heat and just good feelings that you're able to
Yeah.
receive.
Wow. So, okay. So let's talk about that because that's something like, am I wanting to get it as hot as possible and kind of stay in there as long as possible because more is better?
Depends on the person.
Yeah.
If for me, in that case, like I would almost be thinking of that as like my workout for the day. You're going to be getting more stress on the body, but
The hotter it
so,
is
yeah,
and kind of the
because
longer you go. Yeah. Okay.
yep,
Hermetic
big,
stress.
exactly, hormetic stress, which is good for us. I mean,
Hmm.
within reason, of course, but
Hmm.
nowadays we're just in too comfortable of environments. And we're in offices many times that are 70 degrees. Our homes are nice and comfortable. So for you to get in there hot and as long as you can, it's just that good stress on your body. So when you were talking through all those heart benefits, we call it, it's basically a exercise mimetic. It essentially is a workout because your blood pressure has gone up, your heart rate's gone up, your body is working overtime because it's thinking, oh my gosh, I'm hot. What do I need to do? Oh, cool down. So you're kicking on those systems that haven't been activated. You're starting to sweat. And for you, I love the story. I meant to tell you congratulations on the pool of sweat,
Thank you. It's
because
very exciting.
it is like that's what's happening. You're training your body to be optimized. You're working these systems that aren't working as often as they used to. And so by pushing yourself in those moments of like 30 minutes in, you're like, okay, I'm hot. 2 minutes later, you're like, get me out of here. But if your goal was 40, 45 minutes for that session, sometimes we talk about that last 5, 10 minutes as where the magic happens, especially when you're thinking detox or kind of getting that workout in, because that's when your body is just unloading the sweat. Like everything is moving all over the place. Um, and the fun part too is, as we're talking about variety, you don't have to get that hot, right? So your
Hmm.
audience, they're maybe in a place where they're having hot flashes and do not appreciate that heat. They can turn it down. They can go in at lower temperatures. And recently, we had some nice conversations with Dr. Michael Hamblin. He's one of the top expert on infrared, and he's
Okay.
told us that these lower temperatures is when your body is better able to receive this light energy, because the wavelength, as the temperatures rise, the wavelength gets a little more um, just harder to absorb for your body. So
Okay.
at these lower temperatures, you're getting extreme amounts of this light into your body. So it's a win no
Okay.
matter which direction you're going to go.
So what's considered a lower temperature so I can remember
Um,
write this down?
Yeah. So we talk, our optimal is between 110, 130. But even then, that's I hate
Okay.
putting just a limit on
Right.
anything because to be so prescriptive, first of all, where bio-individuality is
Yeah.
like huge,
Huge.
where everybody's different, so we're all different. Um, but even then, like the ambient air around you, that's going to kind of change things. But even as low, like you can get in your sauna as it's at 70, turn it on and preheat while you're in there, and you're getting a nice infrared light session. You may not get that
Right.
heat until later, but that's just again, what I love about our products is it helps such a wide range of people, no matter where they're at in their lives.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm a hot flasher and I have yet to have a hot flash in there, which is interesting to me. Now, so I'll tell you what happened today because I think this is fascinating. So, inside Sunlighten saunas, the one that I have, I'm not sure if they all have this, but you get a little tablet that is safe for high heat. You can put it, it's okay to be in the sauna. And on the tablet, it does connect to your Wi-Fi, and we'll talk about EMF here in a second, but you can you can watch YouTube videos. You can actually watch Netflix, Prime Video, Spotify. So these are the apps that come on your little tablet inside the sauna. And then you can also do Bluetooth, so you can hook it up to your phone if you want to listen to music or something like that. So I've been putting on different YouTube videos with breathing sessions. So I
Hmm.
can do a bit of, I'm a terrible meditator and my stress is always out of control, Vic. Always, I got to practice what I preach. And I have such a hard time meditating or sitting still that I have really been using my sauna as my sacred time and place where I close the door. I mean, I actually heard you talk about this on a podcast and I really appreciated it. It was like you close that door and you're in your little sauna, and it smells so good and it's cedar and it's like, you can just sit there and it feels so quiet and it's like you can shut out the rest of the world. And it is this really nice time to just relax, which I think so many women nowadays have such a hard time doing. Like I would never just go sit in my house to be like,
Hmm.
oh, I'm just going to go sit here and breathe and meditate. Like I just don't do that. I won't. But this, because I want to, detox and I want to get the benefits of the sauna. I pair it all together and take that time now to kind of relax and de-stress. And
Hmm.
I really, really appreciate that. So for that reason, I think these saunas can be so important for women, for our stress management. I think it's pretty
Yeah,
amazing. Um,
absolutely.
right. But anyway, so what I was getting to was, okay, so I have tried several different ways to try and get my body to sweat. I've had a number, like I've had it for 6 weeks. So I've tried several different things. Like I got on my Carol bike, worked up a sweat and then, or not a sweat, but worked up some heat, went into the sauna, nothing. And this was getting up to, again, 130 degrees Fahrenheit for 40 minutes. And I am not dripping sweat at all. And so this morning I woke up, I just got back from Florida and traveling just kicks the shit out of me, any sort of travel. So I've had a 3-day migraine from it, from the train, from the planes going up and down. And I've just felt like garbage. I'm trying to get back on my time zone, which is a 3-hour different time zone. So I, I woke up this morning. I still had this migraine, so I had to take this medication that makes me super tired and foggy in the brain. And I was like, I've done no exercise for 3 days. Why don't because I knew I was going to interview you, I thought, well, I'm going to do a sauna in the morning, which I hadn't done yet. And I'm like, maybe I'll just take that time just to see if I can't sweat out some of the medication that I took to kind of get me kind of back together again in my brain. And I forced myself outside to take a walk. So I went for a walk. No, not sweating or, it was a brisk walk, but it was literally 20 minutes. That was it. And then I went into the sauna, had the temperature, once again, same as always. Had all three of the wavelengths on. So I did the
Mid.
near, far, mid. Yeah. I'll get it. Uh, red light, it's on as always. And it wasn't till about the 30-minute mark And I even started to do when I first got in there, I tried to do some exercise, like some stretching. And, it's mine's only a two-seater. So, there's not a ton of room. So then I was just like sitting there and I thought, okay, well, maybe we'll do some of these breathing practices. And I've been doing these relaxation ones. And I thought, well, I need to get my energy up for this interview. So let's see about doing one that creates energy in the body. I love breathing exercises. So I found this video where it was fire building breath work. And so it was supposed to
Wow.
get your energy going. And I started doing it. And by about 5 minutes into it, I started to sweat.
Hmm.
So it was the breathing. It was freaking breathing that got my body to suddenly sweat. Like, who would have thought? Isn't that
No,
crazy? And then I was like, I finished that one, which was 15 minutes. And so I did a 10-minute Kundalini energy building one. Same thing. And I was starting to drip sweat. And I just thought, this is amazing. I'm not doing any exercise. I'm just sitting here. And I was doing like, it was intense breathing. It wasn't like super relaxing ones. It was definitely Kundalini breathing to, gets the energy going up and down your spine.
no, that's
Isn't that
amazing to hear.
cool?
And just you said you weren't exercising, but you were, like
Right.
it's the systemic benefits that we talk about. Like that's what you were just doing. You got your whole body moving, going for that walk. I mean, that's great for the blood flow to begin with. And for those that do struggle with sweating, that's a perfect tip is do some jumping jacks, get your body warmed up before you get in. And then as you get in, do some different stretches and do that breath work. Love to hear that though, because you chose your session. You set that intention before you got in. And I'm huge on that where
Right.
if I am trying to get in and I just had a crappy interaction at work or with something in the outside world, make the choice to step away from that and maybe relax. Or in your case, you wanted to get this energy going. And you did that. And you did the steps that were in your control. And look, you had the success, and now you can build off of that, add to it, maybe make that your morning energizing routine when you have something big for the day. Um, you're just setting yourself up for success. And I love too what you were talking about with women having that chance to use it as a time to step away. We hear
Mhm.
that over and
Do
over.
you?
Um, and it's everybody. I mean,
Yeah,
it's you
yeah.
literally shut the door. So it's literal and figurative. But that's what I love to do. I don't often sauna in the afternoon, but when I do, it's like I'll stop at work, shut my computer, and then go sauna. Like that act of completing your day, moving on to the next session, or part of your life, like to me, that just helps everything balance itself overall. Like we've got to have a work-life balance, and that's a great way to make it black and white. Like work's over, now it's me time. I'm going to work on my health, relaxation, and kind of melt away some of that stress that was there and that can cling on to us. Like I sometimes there's sessions where I am trying to melt away stress.
Yeah.
It's like
Me
I'm
too.
just thinking of it in my head, or maybe I'm like, oh my gosh, I just want to feel good. So I have our solo system, which is the portable sauna. Um,
Right. I remember you
it's
showing me that at the conference.
yeah, a dragonfly. So that was really cool because it's just far infrared, but with Sunlighten, like I thought when I came here, I needed to have a cabin sauna.
Mhm.
My house doesn't allow for a setup like that. I've got a really old house and I couldn't necessarily get it up the stairs. So I thought I was settling for the solo, but I absolutely adore it. You get the chance to lay down. And so I have it in my sunroom, which most of my sessions are in the morning, but when it is a nice sunny day, like I'll even like I'm in and out of sleep almost, but it feels like I'm on the beach. And to me, that sunny feeling, that is part of infrared. It's just that happiness. We don't
Yes, I can see
associate
that. Yeah.
sunshine. Like when you draw sunshine as a kid, you don't think of it with frowning face,
No.
All
It's
sunshines are
always smiling. Yeah.
smiling. And that's what I love about our company is just that imagery translates so well to just about everything. And so again, some of those sessions, like I just try and radiate positivity and set myself up for something good after that.
Yeah, and so that one is like you're kind of going into a little tube, but it has you can full kind of push them together, correct? To
Yeah,
so that they're smaller and you can kind of push them aside in the room.
exactly. So that's perfect for anyone with space concerns, whether you're in an apartment or a condo that doesn't have the capacity to put a big standing unit that's always out. So I've had it in our spare room too, where I just kind of tuck it into a closet. And then what's nice as well is you don't have to have any special electrical plugins for that one. So with our
Okay.
other units, you do need a dedicated circuit. So um, as your audience is kind of searching for what they want and considering all this stuff, the Solo is great for that. So it's budget friendly,
Hmm.
very easy electrical, and then the space, like you can put it anywhere, you can tuck it away, you can move rooms. And then again, I love how you get to lay down. There's just something that's even more relaxing. I maybe don't get to stretch very much and have as many movements, but it's a nice perk too.
Actually, I do have to say, Vic, like if I move houses, I may have to upgrade. I may have to get a bigger sauna because yeah, to be able to like fully stretch out, I can lie down with my knees up in this one.
Hmm.
Um, my husband said that he still is falling asleep in there. Sitting up. He just says
Yeah,
he kind of puts his head back and he starts to fall asleep, which probably isn't the best thing. Safety first, everybody, safety
right.
first. But
Exactly.
he's been okay. You do set your time, so it does
It
shut
turns
off.
off. Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
but I want a bigger one already because I want to be able to stretch out. But I also would love to do yoga in there,
Hmm.
like
And
Bikram
that's a good
yoga,
tip for people is like our
to
current
think
customers
about.
is
Yeah,
yeah, is we don't hear, gosh, I wish I would have just got a little bit smaller one. It's always the
yeah,
opposite. It's always I
yeah,
wish I would have went a little bit bigger.
yeah.
And then for you, did you know you can just pop the bench out? So if you did want to even sit on the floor and do some stretching,
All right. Yeah.
that can definitely increase the space and you can kind of stand up kind of where that bench would be and have a
Right.
little more freedom. It's not
I didn't
exactly
think
the
about
easiest
that.
thing to do, but
Yeah.
we've had a lot of people send cool pictures of them in these wild yoga poses,
Yeah, I'm
doing
not
all
that
these different
flexible,
things.
but I don't know if I could fold myself in there. I won't be sending pictures, that's for sure. I
Yeah.
won't, wouldn't look good. Um, but okay, well yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely something everybody, if you're considering buying one, really do consider that. The setup, I don't think would be much harder. I mean, the setup itself, you get really worried that it's going to be like, oh my gosh, it's going to take forever to set up. And mine came in 2 boxes. And it took my husband and I probably, but I would say about 2 hours it took. And he did the electrical himself, which was a cost for supplies. I think he said $15, like for the supplies
Wow.
to add the electrical to the box or whatever. Super easy to do. He had no problem doing it, even though he had never done anything like that before. Not saying that that's what you guys should be doing, but you could you can hire an electrician. But my husband is quite savvy that way, so he did it. We had 2 hours, just the two of us. So easy to put together. It is
Hmm.
easier than IKEA, just so everybody hears that, because I am an IKEA expert on their furniture, which drives me crazy. And I always, it's ridiculous how difficult that can be. This is way, way easier. So it was like, oh, you just do this, and there's videos and instructions, and so easy. It's like putting together Lego or something, like
Yeah,
big Lego.
exactly. Giant Lego because it's the
Yeah,
floor,
panels.
ceiling. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
panels, big walls, and like you said, it's mattress size or it's two boxes. And think about like a twin mattress. Um, And what our team does too. So if your audience is thinking about saunas, um, they can reach out and we'll get their information, and then our team will talk them through absolutely everything. There's nothing
Hmm.
more than what everybody on the team enjoys than talking about saunas, from the installation, the electrical, the space. They'll talk through the health benefits. They'll talk through the concerns of the client because, like we've talked about already, everybody's in a different place. Everybody
Mm.
wants to sauna for a different reason.
Mhm.
Maybe they're getting a sauna for their mom, or maybe they're getting a sauna for a heavy metal detox like yourself. We're all in a different place. So our team then talks and instructs or just helps by listening and then providing input of, hey, I think this one would be a great solution for you. You mentioned budget is a concern, so this is a great option. This one is another awesome option. It's a little more expensive. It's got more bells and whistles. And then it's up to the customer to figure out what's best for them. Um, and keeping in mind too, go bigger if you have the space. Um, but it's a lot, but that's what we're here for. We're here to support every step of that process so that they feel good because this is an investment in their health
Yeah.
for the long term. Like this is the habit, the healthy habit that hopefully they'll be keeping for years upon years.
Yeah, my assistant Jessica has a Sunlighten and she's had it for a while, I think for several years now. And so she was like, when she heard that I was getting one, she's like, just so you know, my sauna purchase was by far one of the best purchases that I've ever made.
Mhm.
And she uses it every morning, so does her husband, and they just couldn't talk highly enough about it. Like they were just like, it's amazing. So you guys have a good reputation. Now let's I want you to just tell everybody the health benefits of the different wavelengths because we didn't
Yeah.
get into that. So
Yeah, so let's start surface level. We talked a
okay.
little bit with near and red. So with those two wavelengths, again, it's that mitochondrial support. It's feeding basically the mitochondria so that they can produce energy, but then the fine lines, the wrinkles, that kind of thing. From there is mid infrared. So it's a little bit longer of a wavelength. And for us, we always we associate it with muscle recovery, inflammation, that kind of thing, because it gets a little bit deeper in, so into the joints, muscles. So it's supporting those efforts. And then far infrared, um, is more detoxification. It again, as I spoke before, the water molecules, it's getting everything energized and moving. So that then affects blood flow and circulation. So we always call the far infrared the grandfather wavelength because it's just all encompassing. And each of our products really relies on this far infrared to provide the benefits. So that's a quick breakdown of each. But as you dive in, I mean, each wavelength can support almost all of the different benefits that we talk about, whether it
Okay.
be the relaxation, heart, because they all play a little bit different role. Because if you think about it, like if near infrared's involved and mitochondria, I mean, every cell in our body has mitochondria, and we're made of mostly water. So infrared is taking over pretty much our entire bodies, and we're reacting to it in ways that then support foundational health. So that's where I always take it back to, at least when I'm trying to educate friends and family, is like, this is for foundational health. Like you may have a problem that's flaring up, but the solution may not be just do X, Y, and Z. Like you really have to get to the bottom of it. And all of these wavelengths are going to work together. And you don't have to have near and mid. That's why a couple of our models just have far infrared because it's foundational support. It's going to help with that detox, which then in turn helps with the inflammation, the systemic inflammation that you're experiencing. And with the increased blood flow, you're getting more oxygen to different parts of your body. You're feeding or you're moving the nutrients in your body better to support those issues that you're experiencing. So it's
Mm,
easy to say near does this, mid does that, and far does
right.
this. But at the same time,
Bar will do it all.
they're all
Yeah.
doing a lot of great things.
And yeah, and I noticed like because you can pick programs, and it'll say like do the detoxification or do muscle recovery or cardio or weight loss. So these different programs will have different set of wavelengths. So maybe it'll just be the near or mid, and then it'll go to a certain temperature. And I'm guessing this is all for purpose, where it's
Hmm.
going to really be kind of honing in a little bit on that specific thing, whether it's like you said, like, I think it was was it the near that was really good for skin?
Hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So, if you were like, okay, I just really want to focus on skin today, you could go in there and just do a near one. But yeah,
Yep.
I like that there's different programs then for each of like muscle recovery. And so it'll have different wavelengths, different heat. And also some of them have red light therapy and some of them don't.
Yeah, and that's what's the Impulse. It's a groundbreaking product.
Mhm.
Bottom line, we're the only ones out there that have these wavelengths in the optimal
Oh,
form too. So we have the LEDs panels, um, and that's a different heater than what's producing the far infrared. And something I haven't talked about yet is emissivity, which is our body's ability to absorb this infrared light. So our heaters are designed to be extremely emissive, almost 100% emissive, which means that we're actually receiving that light. I mean, if you think about vitamins and
wow.
supplements,
Yeah.
some of them, I mean, you can take 1,000
Right.
milligrams of something, but you're going to absorb 5 of it because it's
Hmm.
not
Hmm.
bioavailable. Your body is just like, hey, let's send this on through. We don't have much to do with it. Um, Same thing with infrared. Like our body may not absorb certain wavelengths as well because it's not delivered in the right way. So we took a lot of time and effort to design our heaters to be emissive, which then back to the Impulse, the programs were all designed based on studies. So we had studies that had different data points showing near infrared for this, whether it's the relaxation program, the muscle recovery. So that's kind of the whole mindset I have of like, I want to go in with an intention. That's exactly like you get to choose your intention and the program and then let the sauna do the work. So you don't have to worry about having it just right. And that is only in our impulse sauna. Um, some people are kind of averse to technology, too many bells and whistles, they kind of get confused, or it's just more prone to a mishap, choosing the wrong program or just not knowing what to do. So we do have models that are more simple controls that are just turn them on, off, change the temperature, the time, that kind of thing. So that's kind of a great thing
That's
with us
nice.
as
Yeah.
well as options.
Yeah. And so talk about the EMF, because that's a big concern where when I was doing the research, there was a lot of articles that were like, you would be really careful because some of these saunas will have a high EMF. And so you're
Mhm.
microwaving yourself when you're inside them. So how have you guys managed that?
Yeah, so EMFs have been a big thing for a while now in
Mhm.
this industry because we're becoming more aware of what is happening to our body with these outside forces and fields. And these are electric components, like that's an electrical box that you're in. So we have done a really nice job of mitigating the effects of EMF, coating the wires, being mindful of where the wires are so that they're not interfering with your body, emitting too many electrical fields. We've done third-party testing too. So they came out and measured different places within the saunas, and um, all of the measurements were extremely, I think, even ultra low. So
Okay,
it has
great.
become, I mean, out in the industry, people are just taking it and running with it. Like we're the lowest. I don't think anyone has claimed negative EMFs, but people saying zero EMFs. And I
Which is
mean,
not possible. Yeah.
yeah, it's electrical. I don't see
Yeah.
how it can be zero, but we've just done a lot for safety through and through and have always worked on optimizing. And that's what I love about what Connie and Aaron have done with this company is create a product that's going to be safe and listening to our customers. I mean,
Mhm.
25 years ago, I don't think we knew what EMFs were, but as it became a thing, when we learned about it, we worked to get better at it and make it more safe for the user. So same thing too with like wood glue. We avoid that at all costs.
Yeah.
There's magnetic assembly that keeps things together. Because as we were talking about with the potential of steam saunas producing mold, We've really worked on that here. It's like you don't want to be retoxing because something is off-gassing from the sauna. So safety, whether it be the EMFs or just everything else, is a huge concern and something that we're always improving.
Yeah, like the inside wood is not stained. So
Yep.
there's no off-gassing of chemicals, which
Yeah.
yeah, my husband was like, do we need to paint this? I was like, no, that's the whole point, is that we don't want to have those chemicals being heated up inside the sauna. And he's like, oh yeah, right. That makes more sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh, so there was, I would love to go through some of the research points, and I won't go into them in great detail, but just so that people can understand, there has been a lot of research done on infrared saunas. One of them on the detox, which I thought was really interesting. I actually heard this on a podcast several years ago where they were talking about it for detoxing heavy metals. And there was a study conducted on first responders of the World Trade Center.
Mm.
So they used saunas to detox the first responders. So 84% of responders were able to discontinue medications used to manage symptoms related to the World Trade Center exposure. Because you can imagine the chemical exposure from that.
Yeah.
Over 50% of responders were using pulmonary medications, and 72% of them were off all pulmonary medications after detoxification. Thyroid function testing showed statistically significant improvement, which is the heavy metals are why I think I have hypothyroidism. So I'm hoping that my thyroid is going to get better. Um, Intelligent quote, how do you say that? Quotient IQ showed
Got it.
testing. Maybe I need to work on my IQ. IQ testing showed improvement in cognitive function. Postural sway testing, so balance, showed significant improvement. A traditional sauna was used on the WPC responders, which required sauna sessions of 2 to 5 hours. Infrared saunas are 7 times more effective at removing the same toxins, which allows for manageable sessions of 30 minutes.
Hmm.
So that I think is amazing. Um,
Yeah. You'll have to send me
the
that one because I had
Yeah,
not, I've heard bits and pieces, and like we hear all the time about firefighters too, because they're going into these burning buildings and using
right.
chemicals, and they're highly affected by everything. I mean, they've got these oxygen masks, but they're also getting stuff on their clothing. And so we work with a lot of fire stations to allow the people that go in and actively fight these fires to then detox. And like I've heard stories of the sweat even almost being, and this maybe their skin is just dirty, but like dark sweat because of the amount of crap that's coming
Wow,
out
I
and
believe
the
it.
smoke. Um, One of the studies that I've always enjoyed when it comes to detox is the bus study. It's the blood, urine, sweat. And it was done on participants to see what's in their blood, urine, and sweat as far as heavy metals and a bunch of other um, chemicals and elements. And the most surprising finding was that out of the participants, only 15%, I think it was, had mercury in their blood, which, gosh, that's frightening, I guess. But 100% of them had mercury in their sweat, which
Mhm.
means that you're not necessarily getting everything out in one way. Like our detox systems are extremely complex, and we need to support it, our body's detox systems in every way that we can. And this study showed that sweat is getting out this heavy metal that's stuck essentially, because if it wasn't in these participants' blood, it was in their sweat. It means it's almost hiding somewhere. And that, like, if you just went off your blood test alone, you'd be like, well, I don't have mercury, but you do. Like
You
it's in
do.
your sweat, and a lot of people will even argue that sweat is not a way to detox. It's only for thermoregulation. But this study clearly shows that you do detoxify through sweating. And it's just really important to consider all the ways, like you were talking earlier about the different binders and chelators that you use, and that's too much for you. Well, with this gentle sweat process to detox, maybe that's the secret to allowing your body to get better and more used to these efforts. And then maybe you can start compounding and really get things moving even better so that you can heal your body even better.
I was reading an article by Bridget Danner, a mutual friend of ours, um, about that kind of, what you can do as far as heavy metals in combination with infrared therapy. And
Hmm.
she was saying, you can do things like take certain binders prior to getting in your sauna so that if as you're releasing things in the body as well as in your sweat, that you've got something in there to kind of catch those heavy metals and take them out. And so I am
Exactly.
going to eventually, like right now, I'm just doing vulvic and humic acid with my sauna therapy, which is both very gentle chelation. And then I'm going to take it a step up and I'm going to start doing the Quicksilver detoxification kit, which is a little more intensive. And so I'm going to combine the sauna therapy with that in hopes that being able to sweat now
Hmm.
that it'll help with getting rid of it as I'm pushing them out of my system. And that's something that I learned in all of my research was you can't test for heavy metals through blood. It's super
Hmm.
inaccurate because your body is super smart and it stores these heavy metals away. So if you've
Right.
got all this exposure to heavy metals, which we all do, we all have it. We all have exposure. I don't have a single mercury filling in my mouth. And I was off the charts with mercury. So we're all exposed to it somehow. And but you can't, if you test the blood, it doesn't show up unless it's a recent exposure. So if you were
Oh,
just
wow.
exposed to mercury, had a blood test done, it'll show up. Same within a hair analysis,
Hmm.
because that's another popular way of testing heavy metals. So it's your body stores it. It stores it in its tissues. It stores it in your bones. It stores it in your brain, the
Yep.
muscle, like it's everywhere else but the blood. So
Right.
I bet that yes, and then sweating it out and sweat is a much better way to test for it. So I'm glad that you mentioned that study. I did read a little bit about that. Another thing that is the weight loss benefits. There are some weight loss benefits for different reasons, which I thought was like not just because you're detoxing, but um, it showed in a study that it lowered people's, was it your hemoglobin A1C? Um, have you read anything about that?
No, that's not one that's familiar, but sounds
Oh, well, I
promising.
am going to send this one to you too. Let me just find it.
Yeah, we had a study that was done using our saunas that showed it wasn't necessarily weight loss, but it was reduced waist circumference, which is I mean, a lot
That's
of the
Vic.
reason that people are trying to lose weight is to look better, um, and to perform, I mean, allow their bodies to perform better. And waist circumference is generally a sign of like things are happening,
Yes.
whether it's like we're shifting where the weight is, putting it into muscle. But that was one of the studies done with our actual units. So that's when we're talking about weight loss, that's definitely one that I think of. And it's just for me, saunas are, you can't expect to get in the sauna and just lose a bunch of weight. It has to
No,
be
yeah.
a lifestyle change across the board. But that's what's fun. It's part of the good feeling. You're not out there riding your bike for 30 minutes to an hour or going on these long runs. It's something that's a little more enjoyable.
Yeah. Well, I think it tied into repeated exposure to hyperthermia, which is sauna, boosts growth hormone immediately afterward, and 2 1-hour sauna sessions for 7 days has been shown to increase growth hormone by 16-fold, which is pretty big. And then sauna conditioning can lend itself to promoting muscle growth and fat loss by improving insulin sensitivity and decreasing muscle protein catabolism, which is like eating up of your own muscle.
Mm.
In intermittent hyperthermia, which sauna again has been shown to reduce insulin resistance in obese mice. I just couldn't help but like imagine these little fat mice all sitting in a sauna together. And in this case, insulin-resistant diabetic mice were subjected to 30 minutes of heat treatment 3 times a week for 12 weeks. The results were a 31% decrease in insulin levels and significant reduction in blood glucose levels, both of which can contribute to an increase in muscle growth and an increase in weight control and fat loss. It has been shown that 30-minute intermittent sauna treatment can cause significant expression of something called heat shock proteins in muscle, which is correlated with 30% more muscle growth. And so we know that the more muscle you have, the more insulin sensitive you're going to be as well. So that in combination as well, my friend Danielle Hamilton, which you were saying that you were watching a podcast that I just did with her and Nat Nidham. Well, Danielle is a blood sugar specialist, and she's just
Right.
currently been getting really into the effects of circadian health and exposure to light, and blood sugar, and how
Mm.
it can help reduce insulin resistance as well as leptin resistance just by exposing yourself to the sun. And she tells me all the time, like, get in your sauna in the morning in the winter time. She was saying, like, because of that, if you've got red light therapy in it, and just to have that red light exposure and the heat, she says is really going to help because you can't get outside much in the winter time. And then you're getting that infrared, the wavelengths, like the sun.
Yeah,
So
it's
you can
amazing. I mean,
imagine. Yeah,
light is just crazy.
it's
The amount of
crazy. So
effects
we
it has on
underestimate it.
hormones. Yeah, it's important for all things. I mean, even plants, like they need light for photosynthesis. Or we're in Kansas, so that's our sunflower is our state flower. These flowers are designed to move towards the sun. Like they know it's that beneficial. Like that's it just blows my mind.
I know everything that she's been teaching me is blowing my mind. I'm like, God, we just really need to get back to the basics. No, we just need to get the heck outdoors. But yeah, that's pretty incredible. Now, as we wrap up, I do have, of course, not a coupon code, or is it a coupon code? I can't remember, but a link, anyways, where it's not a specific amount off because Sunlighten has a number of different saunas at a number of different price points, as we were talking. You can get different discounts by using my code on the different saunas. So if you're interested, anyone that's listening, then I want you guys to call Sunlighten, and they're going to walk you through which one would be best fitted for you, price point, and then they'll tell you about the different discounts that you can get by having used my link.
Yep,
Is that correct?
exactly.
Did I get that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we can also have a code set up. I think we discussed
I think
KM
we did.
hormone.
Yeah.
Um, so we'll have that in the show notes and the link as
Yeah.
well. But again, come to the website, check things out. And then if you fill out that get pricing form, just mention Karen's name, this podcast, and that's where our team will reach out and then
Mhm.
the discount will be applied and it's up to $600 off.
Yeah. That's
And
huge.
yeah, it is. And a little tip too is it can be stackable. So if you have, if we're doing a big promo coming up, then you can save even more. So start digging in now. I mean,
Yeah.
this is so new to many people. So start educating yourself, find out what your goals are, what's going to support you the best, and then reach out to our team and by filling out that form, and then the conversation will just continue from there.
Yeah, and you guys can follow me on Instagram because this is just the start of my journey with my sauna. And I am planning on, tracking it all, and I'll be doing Instagram lives about it and about the benefits of what I've been finding with my sauna, the detoxification. I'm actually going to test my heavy metals again right now, and then I'll test again in 6 months and we'll see where I'm at. So if you guys are interested in it for that purpose as well, the detoxification, then be sure to follow along, because this isn't the last I'll be talking about this, because I really do feel that this is such a safe and gentle way to detoxify. And something that I didn't ask you before we go is, do you know why some people don't sweat like this? Like, because I've heard you talk about this on other podcasts where you're like, yes, some people don't sweat and they have to actually, their bodies will have to adjust and they'll start to learn to sweat by using the sauna.
Yeah, it's bio-individuality, I
Right. Yeah.
guess. I
Yeah.
love to say that word, and it's just it really applies here because everybody's in a different place. Some people are more heat adapted than others. And many times when you aren't able to sweat, it's not necessarily a sign of poor health, but it's an opportunity to have better health because as I talked about your systems and moving, like for people that are sweating heavily, that means that their systems are moving and functioning well, because it is an important tool that we have. Because yes, thermoregulation is a big part of it, where we're able to cool ourselves down with it. But then you think about the detox part. Um, some people just aren't able to get their bodies moving, and I don't have the answer of like
Yeah.
exactly why, um,
Yeah.
but have heard a lot of stories of people building up that ability. So I'm so glad you started the podcast with that comment about building up and sweating.
So
um,
great that it happened today. I was, I
yeah,
couldn't, I was so excited. I was like, oh, I
and
had a
then
whole different intro written down. I'm like, oh no, I got to talk about this. This is way too exciting. And now in the future, for people that do come to you and say like, oh, I'm having troubles actually having my body sweat, that's something now that you can say, you know what? We have somebody that did some breathing exercises that was got the body to sweat finally.
yeah, because there's all
It's a
we
little trick.
Yeah, the little habit stacking that you can do
Yeah.
and switching up those sessions. Again, that's what I
Mhm.
love. It can be boring to sit there. But if you're
It's
meditating,
not.
reading, sleeping, like it flies by.
It
And that's
does.
a blessing because some of those times you're like, gosh, I wish this time would go even faster. But by varying those sessions, it keeps your body guessing. It kind of goes back to the hormesis of the gentle stress. You need your body. If you get in too much of a rhythm, I mean, that's where like distance runners, that's not necessarily the healthiest type of exercise because you're just doing the same long, gentle exercise. You have to switch it up, and
Mhm,
it's good for your mental too. If you're
mhm.
changing things up and the one session is more relaxing and then the other one's more energizing, I'm gonna have to get those breath work programs that you're doing because I love the energy one. Um, and it's just
It
sounds
was
exciting.
great. Yeah, no, I'm really excited to continue with it just to see like if I can make it happen again, you know, and I'm gonna hack it. I'm gonna try different things and see like different breathing exercises and what they do for me. And so yeah, I don't
Mhm.
know. But I gotta say, I've never once felt, and I have total like ADD. I don't know if it's ADD, but I have a very hard time, as I told you, sitting still. I'm a workaholic. My brain's constantly going. I have never in all my sessions so far have I felt like, oh, I got to just get through my sauna session.
That's good.
Every single time I can't wait to get in it and I enjoy every second of it.
Well,
So
good.
yeah,
Love to hear that.
yeah. Okay, well, thank you, Vic, for everything and all of the amazing information. I'm actually going to go back and listen to it all again because I want to like get it into my brain so I can talk about it too, and all the benefits of the different wavelengths and the near, mid, and infrared. You know,
So
near, mid,
you,
and far. Near, mid, and far. Oh
yes,
my gosh,
you
how
got
stupid am
it.
I? Near, yeah, yeah. See, my IQ does need working up for sure. All right, Vic, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. Can't wait to hear about your next successful sweat stories.
Yes.